right. I think we're about ready to get started. My apologies for interrupting all of your conversations, which is going great. That's part of the idea, is to bring people together and give them a chance to meet other people within the coalition, to build out on the sense of community that we have. We're really pleased that everyone's here. Please, as you can and as you're interested, grab food in the back. I think most people have found that already. Looks like more people are finding it right now. And hopefully there are seats. We are right at the edge of the seating plan that we set up, but we have additional chairs if there's problems finding seat. So first of all, my name is Keith Buffington. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Transformational Education. I'm very pleased that you are all here with us, with each other, to be part of this leaders meeting. We have a lot of things to tell you about what the coalition has been doing, and there's been a lot of change. I was actually thinking back on the history of the coalition. We actually had our very first leaders meeting in this hotel, not this room, in this hotel in 2017. We had about 12 or 15 college presidents and provosts coming together. Rick Miller was the facilitator of that, to talk about, is this a good idea? This thing that didn't have a name yet? Does anybody care? Is this something that is of interest to a wider audience? We had some encouragement to consider that. More people came to that first meeting than we expected. We probably expected half that number. But we had a lot of enthusiasm in the room. We had a lot of ideas in the room, and we've evolved from there. There were actually, I think, 4 of us who were actually part of that first meeting. Tom Katsouleas is here, Domenico Grasso is here, Christosky is here, and I was here as well. Another person that was there at the first meeting, who is not here today, is Rick Miller. All of you have heard Rick Miller's name, I am sure. We have a quick video clip from him as a way of introduction and saying hello. Rick had his hip replaced on Wednesday. So he is quickly getting his mobility back. He's actually very excited about having the hip replaced. His mobility has not been what he wants it to be. He's a very active, energetic guy, and his ability not to get around the way he wanted to has influenced his life a little bit. So he's very excited about the fact that he has a new hip and that he actually will be able to get around and do the things he wants to do. And he is back fully up to speed again. We've been getting long emails from him within about 12 hours, less than 12 hours of, if you know Rick, you know what I mean when I say long emails. He's been sending out things pretty much ever since he wasn't even out of the hospital yet before he was sending out emails. So anyway, so he's not here today, but we will hear his voice in just a few minutes. But we are all here today, and we greatly appreciate that. And it's truly an opportunity to come together as leaders of the coalition. Even as recently as a year ago, the size of this meeting was about half. We've had tremendous growth over the last year, so there's a lot of new people in the room. We very much want you to take the time to get to know each other. We'll say a little bit more about that as we go along, because this is a community. This is a group of people who sometimes say, I have found my people. We hear that from our national conferences. We hear that from some of the meetings. We hear that just from some of the people who respond to our emails. This is something that I think everyone in the room is very passionate about. We're focused on making the lives of students better, maybe focusing on our own institutions, but also across higher education. How can we make higher education more student-focused, or student-focused again, maybe, more student-focused again? How can we really prepare them for what comes in the rest of their lives? How can we set them up for a lifetime of well-being? That's the thing that we talk about the most. So I think everyone in the room is excited about that opportunity, is doing something or is thinking about doing something on their campuses. So we'll hear a little bit about some of that. We'll share our experiences, share your experiences with all of you. And then we're going to also put you to work, as we can't resist with the great leadership that we have in the room, to take advantage of your experiences and your ideas for what we can do within the coalition to make it bigger, make it better, and think about what it can become in the next few years. So we'll get to that. We're moving along. want to make sure we covered everything here. Oh, one of the things I definitely want to mention is that we do a series of meetings. We have the leaders meeting every year. Typically, well, we've shifted it kind of from the summer to the fall, but we also have our national conference, which this coming year, 2025, will be March 31st and April 1st at the University of Miami. And we have Kathy Curran from the University of Miami, so I'm going to ask her to say a little bit about why we should all go to Miami at the end of March. You want a mic?
I'm so proud. Thank you all. And also my colleague, Maria Gali Stampino, the Dean of Undergraduate Affairs, is with us, and we are really excited to host the annual meeting. And let me just say, for those of you who are still contemplating membership, I don't think the ink was dry on our application. I don't even think we had been accepted in the coalition when Rick and Keith and Dana were like, Kathy, could we come to Miami? So we are really excited. Our provost, Willie Prado, will be hosting the meeting. And if you haven't had a chance to visit our campus, it is really beautiful. It's great meeting space, and there's obviously a lot to do. So you may want to extend your visit if possible. So we are really thrilled to be part of the coalition, and we'll make sure that, I don't know if it'll be as good as Georgetown, but we'll do our own hurricane best to make it fun.
About the hurricane. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're in a good season.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, it should be a great conference. We're setting up the keynote speakers as well as the rest of the program. You will be here. You've heard about that already, actually. You should have gotten, I think everyone in the room should have gotten at least a save the date and some additional information, at least once. And we'll be sending out more information as we go along. I want to now give Rick, in his recorded message, we asked him to record something earlier on in the week and let him talk. I think this is a particularly reflective time. That's a word that we use a lot. It's a particularly reflective time in higher education. There is so much happening on our individual campuses, so much happening across the nation, so much happening maybe across the world, and a lot of uncertainty. And I think, hopefully, each of you finds the opportunity here within the coalition to make a difference in all of those things that are happening, make the lives of students better on your campuses, and again, contribute to that national conversation about what higher education can be. So let Rick say a few words from his point of view, just for a couple minutes, to say hello. For those of you who haven't seen Rick in person, you won't get that chance quite today, but you'll see a little bit more about him. And I have this here.
Good morning. My name is Rick Miller. For those who don't know me, I'm the founding chair of the Coalition for Transformational Education, and I want to welcome you to this 2024 annual leaders meeting here in Chicago. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today. I had total hip replacement surgery in Boston about 48 hours ago, and I'm not able to travel yet. But I fully expect to see you at the CTE events early next year. There's so much good news to share with this community just now. As you can see, under the leadership of Keith Buffington and Dana Humphrey, the CTE has grown significantly in this last year. And under the leadership of Marge Malpede, our digital magazine Learning Well has also grown in distribution and in influence. You'll hear from them here at the meeting with more details. It seems that the core message of the coalition has never been more important, and it resonates well with the growing number of institutions. In short, we aim to start a broad movement to elevate the role of teaching, that is, preparing the next generation for upward mobility and a lifetime of well-being, to a status that is equal to research, the long unchallenged highest priority in higher education. All institutions share this mission, and we intend to elevate this from a nice-to-have to a must-have in the years ahead. As you know, our approach to achieving this is nuanced and involves three key principles. First, we promote evidence-based, faculty-driven interventions that touch all enrolled students. Secondly, our focus is on promoting belonging, agency, and purpose or meaning, not just competence. And finally, we are focused on helping students to achieve well-being and flourishing in several dimensions long after their graduation. With the continuing concerns about student well-being on campus, the spiraling costs of tuition, room, and board, and the declining public support for higher education, it's important that we do all we can to regain the public support for our agenda to improve the long-term outcomes for every enrolled student today. Well, today's meeting is timed to help us with a key strategic task, planning for the next 3 years. Our initial funding will expire in June of 2025, and we are deeply involved now in setting priorities and making plans for the next 3 years. Your input and advice in this process is very important to us. Finally, the events of the past 10 days rest heavily on our meeting. If the new Trump administration follows through on their promises, many campuses are likely to experience challenging times. But challenges often bring opportunities to address concerns in more aggressive ways, opportunities that can create new energy, new relationships, and new priorities. Ideally, the coalition will offer a voice with a fresh vision that brings together those inside and outside of higher education to create better outcomes for all of our students. So I want to thank you for coming to this meeting and hope you have a great meeting. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
There you go. So that's Rick Miller, summarizing a lot of what the coalition is and has been and hopes to become. As he said, we're going to work together to plan out the next few years of the coalition, what our work can be and what we can do together. I keep coming back to this word community because we are a community of people who care and we want to make a difference, again, on our campuses and more broadly, and we'll continue to do that. As part of that, as part of the exercise of building community, we want to let you have an opportunity to get to know each other. In past versions of the leaders meeting, we've had each individual person stand up and say, here I am, this is my name, here's where I'm from. With this number, that's a little bit more challenging, so we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to introduce the members of the executive committee for the coalition, let them stand up and say just a couple of words, and then let you talk for a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, at your table. And you've been doing this, of course, already, to make sure that you know everyone who's there, maybe what their role is, maybe a little bit about their background, some interesting part of their history or their story or why they're here. And so we'll give you a chance to do that. But I'll start off by just saying that, so Keith Buffington, again, Executive Director of the Coalition. My background is actually in engineering. Rick's background is in engineering too. That's how we actually came together for the first time. But we have always been interested in broader issues within higher education. I've been a faculty member and Dean of Engineering at Bucknell University in Central Pennsylvania. I went to Bucknell because of its focus on undergraduate education. I thought that's where I could make a difference. That's what I was drawn to. My background is I grew up in central Massachusetts, a little place called Shrewsbury, where Domenico was also from, interestingly enough. Went to Tufts University as an undergraduate, went to Stanford for graduate school, and then did a 3-year postdoc in Switzerland, living in Zurich. And since then, I've lived in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. So it's been a great opportunity for me to work with students, and we're really pleased that we have some students in the room this time to talk later on in the program. That's at the heart of what I think we're all about, and certainly from my experience as an educator, it all comes down to the experiences that students have and how we influence them and how we set them on their path for the rest of their lives. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to let Dana say a little bit, and then Marge, and then John as well.
Hi. I think I know almost everybody here. If you don't know me, you've heard from me, I think, maybe too many times. I've been with the Coalition for about almost a year, coming up on a year. I started in January, and many of you know I was helping to plan the conference. That was sort of my first task. But it's been an amazing experience. Prior to that, Marge and I have been working together for about 9 years, I think, coming up on a decade. So we've been working in the student mental well-being space for a long time. We were working more specifically on student mental health, and our partnership on Learning Well and with the Coalition middle of last year really helped us expand into well-being and larger and also lifelong well-being, what happens after students graduate, because they do leave school and what happens after they leave school. So my background is in public health. I like to say on my intro meetings that we take a public health approach to higher education. So that's why I'm here. That's why I have my background. I live in Rhode Island. I'm from Massachusetts, and I have 2 little ones at home. I'm sure you'll hear about them if I'm talking to you one-on-one. That's all I talk about. And I'll just pass it to John since he's closest.
And John, if you could come up here just for the camera point of view, that would be great. Yeah.
You definitely want me on the camera. Yes. Hello, everyone. It's good to see so many, familiar faces and new ones as well. So I look forward to getting to meet you if I haven't had a chance yet. John Vollen. I'm in fifth year already as provost at the University of Maine. My introduction to the coalition was actually in 2019. I was at the University of Connecticut for a very long time. In the last several years, I was vice provost for academic affairs. And this new president at the University of Connecticut sent around a draft white paper about the coalition. And I think I may have been the first one within a few hours going, "This is great." and so if you don't know, I'm talking about Tom Katsilas, who was a Svengali when it came to bringing people to the table to really follow what we were calling life transformative education at that time. And literally, I think it was 2 days before in 2019 leaders meeting here in Chicago that Tom said, I was going through slides because you're going to be doing a presentation. Said, "Oh, come on, why don't you come with me?" And that was my introduction. So I'm on the executive council or board or whatever it is that we call ourselves. But it is a weekly meeting, and I get to most of them, and it is like the highlight because everyone in this room lives in meetings, right? I once did an average count of meetings. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. But this is one I really, truly look forward to. It's kind of the late afternoon, early evenings of Mondays. And it is such an inspiring, so if you haven't had a chance, look at all the different best practices, that member institutions are deploying, if you will. It's truly amazing. And it gives you that hope when in some of those dark days that, to keep moving forward. So I look forward to chatting with all of you. Thanks.
I want to be on camera too.
I should have think while I was on camera.
Not true. Hi, everyone. I'm Marjorie Malpiti. You probably recognize my name, hopefully, because you get me in your inbox every Tuesday. I'm the editor-in-chief of Learning Well magazine. And I basically do everything Dana says, and she has just made things great for me for 9 years. We have been a team for a while. We previously were at the Mary Christie Institute, and we were looking at the trends that were emerging around college student mental health. So that was our focus for a long time. My background is actually not in higher ed. It's in political science, public affairs, and journalism. So I've been covering this mysterious and interesting sector now for about 9 years, coming into it through the health lens. As Dana mentioned, part of our work over the years is really, like any kind of learning journey, evolved from looking at sort of mental health service delivery options and what colleges are doing around getting students into counseling, and completely kind of turned around to what is it that the institutions are doing around creating communities of care that are addressing some of the issues that our students were reporting that had very little to do with the mental health diagnosis. My colleague here, Zoe, is going to talk a little bit more about that. Zoe Raguzius, who's head of counseling and well-being at NYU, has been a close colleague of Dana and I for many years, and we really have evolved in our thinking. So we met dynamic Rick Miller, who, of course, I did an interview with. And the more, again, I do this all the time in journalism. I'm not supposed to be the person sort of involved in the conversation. I'm supposed to be the independent journalist, but I always screw that up. So talking to him, I sort of was asking him all sorts of questions that went completely outside of the interview that I ended up doing or the article that I ended up doing. But I became extremely interested in his approach. And one thing led to another, and then I got connected, Dana and I, with the coalition, and we started Learning Well magazine. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Learning Well, but a plug to please connect with us around all the interesting things you're doing. Our job, particularly my job, is to really listen and learn and become immersed in what you all are doing. So I'm looking forward to more connections ahead.
Thank you, Marge. All right, so you've heard a little bit about us. Now is the opportunity for you at each of your tables to learn a little bit more about each other. There's some materials I should have mentioned before. There's the agenda for the day, which should be at each of the seats. There's also a list of the attendees. And as John was mentioning, there's a list of the short descriptions of the projects for the people who are here at this particular meeting. There's a full list of all those project descriptions on our website, thecte.org. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to take a look at that. Most of you probably have. And of course, Learning Well Magazine, which is learningwellmag.org. So if you have not yet gotten on that list, make sure you do. It's fantastic. There are so many tremendous articles that come out about the coalition, but about many different things that are happening within student mental health and higher education and teaching and learning, and et cetera, et cetera. There's so much to talk about, and Marge is always looking, I'll repeat what she said, and she's always looking for good stories. In fact, you can't sit down with Marge and not have her ask about something that will lead to a story. So hopefully you have a chance to talk to her, talk about what you're doing on your campuses, or know of other people. She's always interested in referrals as well, so things that we can bring to the forefront in Learning Well. So take a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so, and meet the people at your table, and we'll come back.